What's up, Outliers? Welcome to a follow-along video. Today we're going to be focusing on rotation. So rotation is a huge part of all sport activities, as we're going to bend and flex throughout the body, but rotation, or the transverse plane of motion, is super important for overall athleticism, and it also keeps us much more safe when it comes to things like crashing, falling, which happen a lot in action sports, but also in other traditional sports. You're gonna hit the ground and you're gonna get all twisted and stuff. So the better you can twist, the less likely you're going to injure yourself. And there's a sequence within the body where we have mobile joints and stable joints, and they kind of work opposites of each other. So ankle's a mobile joint, knee's a stable joint, hip's a mobile joint, lumbar spine stable, thoracic spine is mobile. So when we have that sequence in play, if we can get the right mobile joints systems to essentially move well, we protect those stable joints more, and the stable joints can do what they're intended to do and be stable. So we're going to start with some pretty simple stuff. We're going to mostly be doing dynamic movements, but we're also going to move into a little bit of some like static stretching to finish it off with. So for starters, we're going to start in a 90-90 position. So 90-90 is we're just creating a nice shin box right here. So we got 90 degrees in the ankle, knee, and hip on both sides. So we're going to do both sides, so it doesn't matter which side you start with. And the big thing with this is we're going to be working through our spine with it, but more specifically our thoracic spine, which is the 12 vertebrae that runs basically from the base of your neck down to the top of your lower back. So those 12 vertebrae have a lot of rotational components to them, so we're going to utilize that. So in this 90-90 position, we're going to do 10 rotations with our torso, but our legs are going to remain right where they're at. So we're going to rotate to the left or to the right, basically rotating away from our legs to start. That's that big stretch. And then we're gonna come back and we're gonna counter rotate to the opposite direction. And that's gonna be 1. So we're gonna do this for 10 times. Keep count for yourself, but your movement should essentially be about 2-3 seconds at a time. Don't make it fast. If you need to go slower, want to go slower, feel free, but we're gonna shoot for about 10 of them. So with doing this, the big thing that we're gonna feel is mostly just like stretch through the hips, maybe a little bit of a stretch like through the side body, because we got our obliques and our lats that play into rotation as well. So working on those components, at least for me like right now, feeling a lot of tightness down the side body over anything else, maybe a little bit of some stretch in the internal rotation of my back leg, so that leg that is the inside of the knee is touching rather than the outside of the knee. So while we're doing this, the big thing is just remembering to take some good deep breaths. So we're just gonna work through this. I'm about halfway through mine. I'm sure you're close to about the same. So focus on breathing, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the nose or mouth. That's gonna be up to you. I personally like my sequence of breathing to be when I'm loading, I take a breath in, and when I'm unloading, I take a breath out. So I'm gonna hit one more. It might be 9, might be 10, might be off of count, but all is good, does not matter too much. Cool, so once we've done those 10, very easy, we're just gonna swivel our hips, so opposite direction now. The hip that was in external rotation now in internal, and vice versa. So we're going to be working on the exact same thing. We're going to rotate away from the body and then come back with our counter rotation. About 10, taking our time, 2 to 3 seconds per side here. Focusing on the breath, really, really important component of it, so that we can regulate the tension in our body and also the nervous system. And if you find a sticky spot somewhere that is just like feeling a little more tight than the other spots, feel free to like do a little bit of a hold on it, try and help that release. Take maybe an extra breath in, breath out at that position to help reduce the tightness and also just move through a further range of motion, which is the goal, because the more range of motion we have, more natural range of motion we have, the better. The really nice part about this movement is with the hips in a 90-90, it really locks in that lumbar spine that's not really intended to do the twisting. And so when we got that locked in, we can really focus on the right areas, which is more of that upper mid spine. So as I said, about 10. We're shooting for about 10. If you did a little bit less or need a little more time, feel free to take your time on it, but we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next thing. And the next thing is going to be a deep squat with a thoracic rotation. So deep squat is going to be up to your comfort. If you need to take a seat on something, so if you need to slide something underneath your bottom to help you stabilize in this position, if you need to be sitting in a chair, totally cool. Everyone has a different deep squat at this point. Your squat will become deeper the more and more you do it though. So from here, we're going to use our elbows, no matter if you're in a chair or if you're deep like myself, you're going to use your elbows to basically pry your knees apart. And then one hand is going to come to the opposite leg, and then that other hand is going to be the one that rotates up to the ceiling. And just like the last one, we're gonna go for about 10, and we're gonna focus on breath in, followed by breath out, of course. This one's awesome. A little bit more upper T-spine rotation, a lot of shoulder blade involvement as well. You might feel the back of your shoulder actually working as it's pulling up and through. And that's slightly the idea, because if we can move that shoulder blade in the glenoid joint of the shoulder capsule better, that helps the T-spine, and the T-spine also helps those things move better as well. So this one's definitely work. It's yeah, we're not just like stretching and holding here. We're pushing pretty hard to get this done. A lot of rotation, and also this deep squat gets pretty fatiguing. So that's about 10. Once you get your 10, just flip it over to the other side. And we're working 10 on that side as well. So just like the 90-90, this deep squat really locks in the lower back. Even though everyone's deep squat's gonna look different, it's still locking in lower back, especially when you've got that arm coming across, the knees are pried out. So we're protecting the lower spine of the lumbar and allowing rotation from the upper spine. Which, like I said in the beginning, it's nice when these things move the way they're supposed to move, because when you do fall, because if you do any action sport, or any sport in general, you're gonna hit the ground. That's kind of the nature of it. So the better you can rotate, the better you can ragdoll essentially, and hopefully save yourself some issues down the road. So though this is hard, uncomfortable, it's definitely better than the other uncomfortable of being hurt. So we're gonna pick our poisons here. So we're gonna relax. We're actually gonna come back to that 90-90 position that we started with, and we're gonna be working a little bit of a different movement. So we got our rotational stuff in, and we're not done with that, but we're going to switch it up, and we're actually going to work on our pivoting at our hips, which is gonna lock in the lumbar, and then we're going to come forward over the front knee, and then we're gonna just kind of play down in here. So you can move around as you feel free, 2 to 3 seconds, then we're gonna come back up. We're gonna do that for about 10 times. So we're gonna come down, once again, holding this 90-90 position, and we're just gonna kind of rotate around a little bit down there. And the goal is to basically set the stomach down onto that inner thigh. If you're not quite there, that's totally okay. It takes some time and practice. to basically allow your body to move as it's intended. But I promise you, if you stick with the practice and you do it regularly, you will get here and things will start to feel even better. So even though we're not rotating a ton in this position, what we are doing is we have our hip actually rotated. So our spine's not rotating, but our hip is rotated. And this is bringing the hip into a really big external rotation, while this back one sits in internal rotation, and then we have the pivoting over the top of it. So it's just helping those muscles of the hip capsule, and everything around the glutes to cooperate a little bit more so the hips can be more free, because the hips are a big part of our rotation ability as well. Thank goodness they are, because if it was just our thoracic spine, that would be problematic. So about 10 of those, then we're just switching over to the other side, exact same thing. Coming down and in, really feel the difference from one side to another too, because I am way different on this side, much more tight. Remember to focus on that breath, breathing in through the nose, and either out through the nose, which I prefer, or through the mouth. Both are fine. But in through the nose preferably, because you get dry throat. And breathing in through the mouth isn't really how we're designed to breathe. So mouth is the feed hole, nose is the breathe hole. Hopefully as you start, if you feel, once again, those sticky spots, hopefully they start to work out a little bit. They might not completely go away, but you can at least get some relief for them. Especially like for myself right here, when I come up, this internal rotation of this back hip is much more of the problem of, you know, sticky tightness than going forward into the external rotation. Awesome. So about 10 of those as well. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work into what's called the world's greatest stretch, which essentially just is a lunge stretch with a thoracic rotation, or like a thread the needle type feel to it. Really good one, because we're going to also stretch out our hip flexors, which a lot of people have pretty tight hip flexors. So we're going to get a nice hip flexor, a little bit of a quad stretch, along with that split position of the hips. So really good athletic position to be able to get into. And then we're going to rotate with one side at a time. So one foot comes forward, we kind of go into a lunge stretch to start. And then our outside hand, so whatever hand is opposite to the leg that is forward, is going to remain planted, while the hand that is on the same side is going to be the one that we are going to try to drop the elbow to the floor and then rotate up to the ceiling with. So we're getting that thoracic rotation. And once again, we're shooting for 10. 10's the goal. You can get there, wonderful. Don't worry about how your lunge position looks, because it's gonna look so much different for everyone else. But the goal is to ultimately be able to sink into that front hip, get a nice stretch on the inside of that hip, nice stretch on the hip flexors, and then work that thoracic rotation, which I think that's why it got the name world's greatest stretch, because it kind of hits all the marks here. And the elbow down is just that counter rotation, because we want to get in and through as much as possible. That might look different for you, but the goal is to be able to get that elbow to drop in. Awesome. Then we're just going to switch legs. Very simple. Swivel on over. And once again, one side's going to feel much different from the other side, and that is slightly the objective here, is to get them feeling a little bit more in unison with each other, because you don't want to have a weak link and a strong link that you have compensation through. And in this position too, if this is a pretty hard position, you can elevate this bottom hand up onto a yoga block, or even take one of these kettlebells or a dumbbell, put your hand on it, elevate it up. That will essentially keep you up further and make it just a little bit easier if you're having a hard time with this position. But like everything, if you stick to it, it's going to work itself out and feel better. So a couple more. And we're gonna call it good on that one as well. So a lot of dynamic movement. We're going to finish up with just a couple static stretches. So we're just gonna get in position and we're just gonna take some nice deep breaths in those positions. So the first one is going to be a figure four. So this one is, if you're gonna be seated cross-legged, you're gonna take one leg and actually boot it outside of the other. So you're gonna bring that leg over and across. So we have the outside of one knee on the ground, and the top leg has the foot basically on the top part of that knee. And then if that's your right leg, you're going to rotate with your left arm and pull yourself around. From there, we can do a couple things. We can either just squeeze that in and try and rotate counter, or we can actually hug that knee, which is gonna give us a nice glute stretch with some rotation. So we're getting this nice side body position here. We're gonna take about 3 to 5 nice, slow, deep breaths. Hopefully relaxing a bit more with those breaths. Take your time. If it's feeling good, make sure that you enjoy that. But we're gonna switch over to the other side. So one knee down, one foot over the top, opposite arm comes in, and then we're just rotating with it. 5 good deep breaths. Awesome. One last stretch. We're gonna go into just a nice crisscross position, and doesn't matter which side you go to, but we're gonna just rotate. So hips are locked in, lower back is locked in, upper back is free to rotate. Switch your sides when ready. 3 to 5 good breaths. And that's the routine. So nice rotational routine, working on rotation of the hips, working on rotation of the thoracic spine. If you're doing this post-workout, awesome, hope you feel better. Post-workout, you had a nice cool down from that. If you're doing this before bed, I hope you're feeling more loosey-goosey, and that allows you to have a better recovery going into that sleep. And if you could, please like, subscribe, comment, share all this good stuff so that we can get the good word out of what we're doing here at Outlier, and more people can enjoy feeling good. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.